as we go into our message today, the cause that is America. Let the people return to the liberty flame. Let the troops march. Let the bodhisattvas appear. This message is taken from Pearls of Wisdom, volume 36, number 5. Our beloved El Morya, delivered by our beloved messenger, Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Let the voice of America return to one voice, one sound of the will of God. Let the people of America come together in the reality of cosmic history and not a history revised. Oh, let the people return to the liberty flame, to the hour of our nation's birth, to the moment when all stood as one, stood tall before the world and said, we are a united people. We are 13 colonies, no longer separate, but one. And out of the one come the many manifestations of our God. E pluribus unum. Our El Morya goes on to say, so the all-seeing eye of God is upon you. O America, follow its rays back to that eye. Follow the rays to your oneness. Remove all that divides you and return to the hope, to the glory of God, to love, to union, to noble purpose, and a certain simplicity of life that restores the highest virtue in each breast. And end of quote. And we find this message today is very, very apropos for now. It is very needed to be resaid, to be resounded, as this was delivered during the Harvest Conference in the 1993. And our El Morya goes on to give us a direction. In that quote, I am come this first day of the year, 1993. I come to salute the chelas of the will of God and who would be and those who might be. I salute the founder of this nation. End of quote. And here I would like to interject that this was during the Harvest Conference, and there was, the movie was shown prior to this message of the life of George Washington, and it was put out by producer Sutherland. So if you would like to go back and view it, it is very, very, very good expose of our dear beloved Godfrey and our George Washington. And El Morya goes on to say, and therefore you have seen a slice of life, the one that is George Washington, who carried in his heart truly the mission from the God Star, and that of the 24 elders. And yet, all was not known to his outer mind. We find him seen, looking to find himself, positioning oneself so that he might be of best use to his community, to his peers. Thus, beloved, see an image in your mind's eye. See the frowns of Mount Vernon this day, and look out on the Potomac, the cold waters and the wind, and know the winter in the east, and know that the fire of winter inspires self-conquest. It is the fire of winter that compels sacrifice, whereby the old man is set aside and a new man is born. And that new man is one who is ready to give of his all for the victory of the cause, or to accept ultimate defeat. Think how much Washington must have loved in order to place himself and his men on the line for the crossing of the Delaware, for the defeat of the drunken soldiers. Yes, beloved ones, truly such love is for the making of the man and the woman and the soul of a child. Those were the days when there surely did hang in the balance the entire blueprint for America. And that blueprint is there, overlaid upon the 50 states and more, overlaid upon the I am race. Much has come between the blueprint and that which should have magnified, been manifested in the earth. Much that has been righted, yet it can be righted, for Saint Germain has released the dispensation of the golden age for America. And we sense that mission. We sent that mission must be the all-consuming and propelling. And take heed then that it is not the product of the surface mind, but that which is deep within the psyche, which has been there germinating for thousands of years, waiting its season of germination. Yes, beloved one, each one of you stands as an individual this day as you walk the grounds of Mount Vernon and consider the vista that Washington saw. Consider his hopes, his dreams. Consider how the events themselves compelled him, and how in those compelling events, seeking to lead, did find himself at the right place at the right time. Think of the tremendous unfoldment of the mind of Christ that took place. And he no longer identified with a separate state or separate plantation, but as the whole. He held in his breast the whole eye vision of the entire cosmic conception. That is America. Our El Morya goes on to say, I have embraced the larger cause of the future humanity. To say this, beloved, is to have a vision now enhanced by the presence everywhere of the all-seeing eye. The vision of the larger purpose is to have a sense of self-worth, that you might know yourself as a part of that purpose, to have that sense of self-worth and knowing that although your role may seem insignificant, it is very, very, very important. For all count as a part of the one body, having one and several talents, bringing each one theirs to another and another and another. And that is the loves of interchange and rejoicing and the praising God in your midst and in your members. The praising of God that all pieces of the mighty mandala of light may assemble to achieve the day of the cosmic morn. The cosmic morn is when the spiritual sun does rise. It rises in you. It rises in a world. We are not separatists regarding America. We say that it is a place for the experiment of the Great White Brotherhood and the endowment of Saint Germain. We say that if this experiment fails here, it will not succeed anywhere else. For the particular people of the ancient Atlantis and even Lemuria have reincarnated here to take up where they left off and to finish the work begun. Thus, America is more than a nation. It is a symbol to all people of the ongoing possibility for the realization of individual and world freedom. The realization of this possibility, therefore, rests upon the soul shoulders of those who have known freedom in the past, those who have embraced it and realized the expansion of the flame of liberty. Oh, how it burns in each and every heart. Do you realize, beloved, that there are those in the world today who have tasted freedom, and yet they cry out to return to their old totalitarian regimes, to communism, and to other forms of socialism? End of quote here. And I'd like to interject that now we see in many of the news and the current events, we have seen where people have want to return back and want to have the short path, the easy path, and they are easily enticed with certain favors and monetary and just a short path to get to, so to speak, a freer lunch, a freer way of living, but it is not. Returning back to this pearl, our El Morya asks, why is it so? It is because these souls have been denied the opportunity to unfold the principles of freedom, not only in this century, but in many past centuries. They have not been a part of the ancient golden ages. Therefore, the momentum of a unique and individual Christhood is not their personal inheritance. Not all people upon earth in this hour find themselves suited for a way of life of such total independence as can be found in America. And even on those shores, some lack the wherewithal to make right choices and to teach their children how to choose between real and individual Christ freedom and a certain license and wantonness that causes the desecration of the tree of life in every temple. I am Moria, chief of the Darjeeling Council, teacher of the messengers. I stand with you as though at the pinnacle of the world and at the apex of life on this Mount Vernon property. As we survey in our mind's eye the capital city of the nation, we contemplate those who now take the reins of government, and they shall indeed make an upward sweep into new dimensions of greatness, into the acquisition for the qualities of character of the living Christ. This is what we hope for. This is what we pray for. This is what might come to pass if America shall enter an age of self-transcendence and new birth. But we are realists, and we see how the life force has been spent by those who lead or would lead, and how many who rise to positions of leadership, though they have been in training, though they have intellect, they do not have the balance of the heart, of the threefold flame, or even some semblance of an inner and deep spiritual path that would afford them the ties to the octaves of light. What shall we do then as we survey the many life streams who shall take up their service, full of hope, full of determination, yet not always wise, and to be able to predict the future? For they may be politicians, but they are not prophets, and they do not calculate in their planning the cycles of descending karma. At no time in your personal history, O Chelas of the will of God, has it been so important for you to understand the meaning of karma. This is because so much of the karma that falls due in this ages, so much that was held back, was falling, and this coming forth, following the long cycle of that karma that was born by our beloved Jesus, that karma that was taken up, but now it has come. And karma then can tip the scales suddenly. One day you have all that it takes to accomplish the feat at hand. On the next, karma descends. The stock market falls and you realize that calamities come forth. And the optimum moment, it somehow slipped through your fingers. And that which you have proposed is no longer a solution. The coming days will be chaotic. Yes, beloved, note how the events, like quicksilver, appear and suddenly disappear, and you wonder where all the planning has gone. Thus, it is good to concentrate. It is good to establish goals and meet them quickly and bring them efforts into your physical manifestation so that you have something to show for. Then, many files in your filing cabinets, many deliberations, many meetings, and yet somehow the physical precipitation does escape you. This is the kind of coming years that you can look forward to. This is the kind of now you can look forward to. If you want to get something done, do it quickly, beloved, for the moment is past. Beware of the delays, and beware of the delays on your path of self-individual life. Delays cannot be tolerated when the timetable is short. If you should live to be 144 and you are now a babe in arms, you will understand that you have not a moment to lose. What do we do then when we see that those who appear to be strong and youthful and have all that it takes to run a government are in fact at inner levels handicapped spiritually? Well, beloved ones, if we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, then we must make up the difference. We must invoke the light. We must call to the cosmic Christ to descend into the temples of those individuals who have long ago lost their potential for Christhood. There is no other way when we consider that we are one body. And if we are one body and we believe where there is life, there is hope, then we must invoke a mighty intercession for the descent of the cosmic Christ, that they might enter in the arena of the government and this economy to overshadow those who simply are not equal to the times. George Washington was a man who was equal to his time, but you have understood, as in the film before that was shown, he had to grow into his boots, he had to grow into his uniform, and he had to put on the Christ. And even though he did not know that he was putting on his Christhood, he worked with it. He grew into his uniform. And even he moved forward, even though that he was beset with common faults, and that we all have thoughts of pride, ambition, desires to do this and that. Yes, beloved, he moved on, impelled by a higher guidance and by the right hand of God. This is the understanding I would give to you. You cannot sit by the sidelines and be a spectator any longer, waiting to be perfected so that you can begin your mission. You must know that you have a mission, and that you must be up and doing, and that you must be going. And you must realize that the very process of doing is what the immediate greatest necessity. You are engaging in the forces of your time with the energies of planetary systems and the light of the sun itself. Yes, beloved, each moment in cosmic history, each hour and day and year contains the energy necessary in order that all life waves of a matter cosmos might respond to that heart of character of spirit, in that conglomerate mystical body of God, worlds without end. Note well that many of the world's greatest leaders who have had the ultimate victory have not achieved it merely by superior intellect alone, but more by staying power and trial and error and providence and persistence. Sometimes, beloved ones, you could consider, without being superstitious, that there is a certain destiny for every individual. And when that set destiny does come into focus, according to the geometry of creation, then forces work together and bring that individual into a supreme moment, his finest hour. Isn't it interesting that one never seems to know when one's finest hour truly, really is in retrospect? End of quote here at this pearl. And I would like to interject at the times when we are able to say yes, when we said yes to something that was a little bit harder than we thought it was going to be. We remember those times looking back about how we had sweaty palms a little bit and how we stepped up, even though we stumbled a little bit, and said yes. And this is what our dear George Washington inspired his men to do, as was shown in the film. And returning to this pearl, our El Morya goes on. How does one know in advance which one of the millions of acts it takes towards the goal that will actually be the one turning point that will guarantee the victory against which no other outer force can stand? One does not need to know this if one believes in God, as if one trusts the inner voice, trusts the almighty I am presence, and trusts the inner voice and cultivates the inner voice and the listening ear that is keen to know the inner voice. But often one simply knows. One knows apart from all physical or mental faculties. That inner knowing and that divine knowing is the overshadowing of the Christ presence, and that descent into totality of a man and woman in bonds with the soul and the Spirit of God. And so the individual comes together and becomes a profile on heroism. End of quote here. And I would like to interject. There is the one book that was written by our beloved John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States, in the 60s, Profiles in Courage. And I know when this movie came out in the 60s, late 60s, and I know when I saw that movie, it really inspired me and my classmates that we went to go see it. And we were inspired because here we see how we just went forward and inspired as men, as sometimes the Knights Templars had to do, or George Washington had to garner. Returning back to this pearl, our El Morya goes on and it says, this is something you can reach for and achieve. This is an hour and a day when your own godhood must shine, lest there be no candles left in the earth that can maintain their flames against the gust of wind that comes from the fallen angels as they pass through the point of self-disintegration. Yes, answer that question. Will you see this as an hour of self-integration in God? Or will you see it as an hour of self-disintegration, disassociation from the great central sun, from that point of the sun where the matter cosmos meets the spirit cosmos, and where you yourself may pass to the nexus and obtain that permanent reality in the Godhead? It will take many steps and heartbeats, many movements of the limbs, many thoughts inclined to God to find your way back, over the many paths, as you must retrace the footsteps of your guru and your karma, lost in the sands of the Sahara that you must find again. Yet one day you will suddenly uncover them and you will know that this is the way to go. This is the door that will be opened, and another and another. Well, beloved, I speak to you of the cause that is America. It is the cause that is the heart and the heartbeat of America. It is the cause of the small nucleus, one who makes up the capstone of this pyramid, of the small nucleus who make up that capstone of the pyramid in this civilization. It is a cause of those who are going through the process of spiritualization, of self-transcendence, that can hold, can anchor that energy in the heart, that beautiful anchor in the heart. This is a place where individuality stands out against the sky and against the mountains and against the barrenness of winter. Through the valley and through the individual, it's supreme, and yet it is measured according to the Taoist concept against the backdrop of a nature that is more vast. So God created the vastness of nature, the great backdrop, in order for you to be, and to be that great Tao that is the heart of the mystery of life. End of quote in this messages. And I would like to interject here that on the 4th of Saturday evening St. Germain service, we have the creation of the cloud. And it is a wonderful, wonderful ritual that we do. And it expands our beloved blessedness so that we are able to be a beacon of light, to be at the lighthouse, to be in that Washington Monument. Returning back to this pearl, our El Morya goes on. Our cause then, beloved, must be espoused as never before. As you wed your soul to this cause, I remind you that it was not the millions who won for America in the beginning, and it may not be millions who win in the end. What counts is that spirit of liberty, who are made of a fire that will not be quenched, who step forward and say to their general, you can count on me. What matters is the pilgrims of the ages who come marching down the centuries, converge in this place and take a stand against the planetary evil and darkness, a stand for youth, a stand for old age, and all people, a stand for God as he has a right to live in a creation that is made inhabitable for the Lord. Thus, I call you to a higher calling, to a noble purpose. I call you to an ancient memory. I call you to recognize your supreme worth to my cause. I speak to you, beloved, and I do not desire to worry you in the following principle, but it must be said. Unseen dark ones continue to whisper in the ear and project in the mind. that you are not needed here, that our cause is somehow lost, and there are better fields and better valleys, and even other mountains to climb. Ours is a holy purpose. This is a community of the Ascended Masters, and it does shine with those of you who stand for God, who are willing to challenge the forces that you cannot even calculate, whose dark energy is far beyond your awareness. You have placed your ultimate trust in God. Do not withdraw it, but continue in this labor of love to the finish. Let us look to the future, but are we able? Perhaps your imagination must needs be quickened in an age when all things are drawn for you, and we live in an age where what's one, a clean page of your imagination somehow sometimes gets cluttered a little bit and sometimes not challenged. Think then of what might you have thought the future of America would be over the next 200 years had you been there with our dear George Washington. Yes, beloved, you may not even have dreamt of the glories of technology and of the millions who would come to her shores, and how that fire of freedom would be preserved in the hearts, and how all that you stood for would travel around the world many times, so that little children would know, in every nation would know the name of George Washington, and that the figure of the Statue of Liberty, the document that they would know, that the document that is also the Declaration of Independence. How has this spirit of freedom so intensified and increased as a hope of the world, even unto this hour? And sometimes we see the moral decline in the civilization of America. Think then upon what this place would be 200 years from now. What will you see, and what will be upon this continent, and what people will bear witness to us of the fruits of your service? Well, I tell you, it is either a zero or a victory. This is what you will learn in the way of a cause. Either a cause has total victory on behalf of all people because of the components of the cause that we're able to see a greater value, a greater vision beyond that human form and that human beating heart. A life on which millions of unborn millions depend. I appeal to your vision and your sense of honor toward the centuries that you are before, that see that you are there established in the earth, the clear and definite path of world religious freedom, and the freedom to know God, and the freedom to walk as an individual without being dictated by church or state and those of the Nephilim societies. Blessed ones, you may not know it, but I will tell you that the community of the heart flame by the hierarchy of light is to be the seed of the great golden age. And what you do and what the decisions you make and what you are able to accomplish and bring to the millions will determine whether a golden age will be a few square miles or cover the planet of Earth and the solar system and the galaxies beyond. Such is the equation of the hour. This is my appeal to you, beloved. This is my cause. I will continue, and the ascended host will continue. But what we do, beloved, will not count in this octave. It is what you do here today in your lifetime that will count. It will count for everything. Therefore, I place my message to you this day upon the altar of the heart of the world, of the heart of Gautama Buddha. And I speak then of the tenor of its address, of the fierceness of the Buddha, and that you have seen him. Thus I, for one, do not else but stand in his Maya aura and speak to you out of his heart and have this all seriousness in this hour. I say to you, beloved, a messenger is a messenger. And if you desire to receive the acceleration on the path, so must you be able to signify and to quell that dweller and to keep it at bay. And you must accept the message from the messenger and the messages. And you must say, I want to hear the truth. I want to accelerate. And you be open to be instructed, and that you will be corrected so as to receive all divine messages that is needed in the hour to help you move on. Our El Morya goes on. I assure you then that I am always your humble servant, and that all of the ascended hosts stand in the great hall at the great Teton retreat to renew the commitment. And they pledge anew their lives and all of their causal bodies to the success of the light bearers of the earth. We believe fervently, beloved, with all of the light bearers, combining forces with the heavenly hosts, this earth can be turned around, and swiftly so, in the physical octave. We urge you, therefore, not to underestimate your role in this process, and not think that if you vacate your mantle or a position, another will come to fill it. We cannot roll out the dough and make the proverbial gingerbread men and set them up in place of your vacancy, in place of your heart flame. No, beloved, you must understand that where each one of you are born, a star is born that is unique. There is no one question in the cosmos that can accomplish your assignment quite as you can. Only you can do it. Others may come who are second best, or third, or the 100th. And perhaps by my reminding you of this fact will bring you some sense of greater self-worth. For by the very uniqueness of your calling, you shall place the unique jewel in the mandala of the Chelas of El Morya, of the Great White Brotherhood. Now, beloved, I trust you plan your year and order your days to bring forth victories, precipitated in form, that I might show you these, and I might show them to the lords of karma. For whatever else you do in this physical accomplishment, that counts. For in physical embodiments, you can see only physical things. It is as simple as that you see the accomplishment. I come then this day with the good wishes of the Darjeeling Council. I come with you also with the mentors and the retreat, who are the Ascended Masters. They have come on a fact-finding mission, and they so enter the departments. And I recommend then that you use the decrees recorded for you, that you make a special effort while the days in the Capricorn are upon us. And until their passing, to make the attunement with the Darjeeling Council, to seek definition and the divine will for your life stream, to seek the direction, to act upon it at the most practical and thrifty manner, and to bring to pass that which shall be a thing of beauty and joy forever. I ask you, whatever your business or your endeavor might be, I ask you to give calls to me in 33-day cycles for action upon these contents of your letters that you give to El Morya. And you shall know that in this quietness of your own heart, as you drawing closer to God in your presence, therefore, be more in sync with the presence and come upon the awareness that you have received the blessing and more wind in your sails to achieve this year what you have not been able to achieve in past years. And now, as we keep these words, our El Morya asks us to recite with him the covenant of the Magi, our 30.08, as we heard earlier, the covenant of the Magi. Together. Father, into thy hands I commend my being. Take me and use me, my efforts, my thoughts, my resources, all that I am, in thy service to the world of men and to thy noble cosmic purposes, yet unknown to my mind. Teach me to be kind in the way of the law that awakens men, and guides them to the shores of reality, to the confluence of the river of life, to the Edenic source, that I may understand that the leaves of the tree of life that are given to me, I garner them in the treasure of being and offer the fruit of my loving adoration to thee, and that thy purpose is supreme. I shall indeed hold covenant with thee as my guide, my guardian, my friend. For thou art the directing connector who shall establish my life stream with those heavenly contact, limited only by the flow of the hours, who will assist me in the perform the work of men, in the world of men, the most meaningful aspect of my individual life plan, as conceived by thee and executed in thy name by the karmic board of spiritual overseers, and executed in thy name by the karmic board of spiritual overseers, who understand thy holy direction, do administer thy laws. So be it, O eternal Father, and may the covenant of thy beloved Son, the living Christ, the only begotten of the light, teach me to be aware that he lived today within the tri-unity of my being as the great mediator between my individualized divine presence and my human self, that he raises me into Christ consciousness, and that the divine realization in order that as the eternal Son becomes one with the Father, so I may ultimately become one with thee in that dynamic moment when out of union is born my perfect freedom to move, to think, to create, to design, to fulfill, to inhabit, to inherit, to dwell, and to be wholly within the fullness of thy light. Father, into thy hands I commend my being. And I, Moria, have written this unto my Father, so I ask you to think of me as your Father, and to commend your path and your chielership into my keeping, that I might guide you on the honorary way and spare your feet descending into the pitfalls. Yes, beloved, the covenant of the Magi is an ancient commitment of those wise men. Even the sons of solitude have descended down through the centuries, bearing the Christ child in their hearts. For unto us a man-child is given, and we are bearers of that child and the sponsors where children are born out of that crystal fire mist. That is the great heart pattern of the divine man-child, the living Christ. Yes, we walk the earth, and we are more than three in number. We are here and there in the etheric octave and in physical embodiment. Yet we train our own, and we would train many here in Maitriya's mystery school. And you find yourself intact and not bruised or beaten or anything whatsoever that has ever been sent to you. I am especially chagrined for the loss and the damage that has been done to the Tibetan strongholds. Yes, beloved, there are hordes in the earth, and they are not isolated only in the Far East. They are in this nation. They are those who remain stripped of their life force and of the integration of God. They are the ignorant ones who ignore the seed of light that is in them. They are there, beloved, and they are the ones who trample upon the civilization, and they come out of the astral plane. See to it, beloved, that the dark ones do not pull the rug out from under this civilization. Mark the spoilers and call to God to deal with them. Also see to it that in keeping of the flame of our retreat, you are not outsmarted in your own conceit, but rather choose to walk in the way of truth and the way of pure humility that is the highest greatness on earth. I command you in the keeping of the flame of the Chahans and to the expansion of the opportunity. I command you here in to finish the fight, to fight to the finish. And what is the finish? It is when matter cosmos is itself, exercises and merges with the spirit cosmos, and the twain are one. Until then, beloved, let us take our rest and let us the lines be drawn. Maintain your line and do not give up the pure land. For America, the pure land, is God, hierarchy, dispensation, and offering. I commend you to the victory and to the glory of God within. I am Moria. Let the troops march and let the bodhisattvas appear. And we thank you, we thank you, we thank you, dear El Morya.